Hello Knights, Justin here from the Knights of Awakening. Today we're going to be talking about a topic that's been bugging me for quite some time. I'm going to share my perspective with you regarding the Force community and how politics and special interest have started to become a dividing point for many. KOA host Ali and Charles have already put videos out similar to this, and I felt that I needed to weigh in on this as well. When I shared in private that I was going to do this segment, many of you said you were happy that I was going to speak on this, because many of you are feeling as I'm feeling now. Now, this may cause some of you to be upset with me, and that's fine. I'm perfectly okay with that. This is something that needs to be said out loud, because if it doesn't get said enough times by enough people, then the only thing we hear is from those who oppose the views that I'm going to share with you in just a moment. Some of you may agree with me, and that's great. Others may not agree with me, and that's great too. Keep in mind that KOA has many different people from all walks of life, and I will refer to the Force as well as God because the message still applies to everyone, Jedi or not. All I ask is that you have enough respect to listen to my side of this with an open mind, and I promise to do the same for you when I read your comments here or over at the main Knights of Awakening page. I've been a part of the Force community since around 2002, spending most of my time at the Order of Ashland Knights, and at some of the older Jedi orders. Some of them are still around, some of them are not. Admittedly, I've spent the last 6 years or so working on the KOA exclusively and spending most of my time away from the groups directly, mostly watching the community from afar. I have cheered the Force community on at times and have criticized the community at other times. But whether I was there directly or away watching, I always supported the Force community at large and always offered the platform of the Knights of Awakening to anyone who wanted to have their voice heard, free of charge, and no questions asked. I only expected two things in return of those who wanted to share their perspective. Number one was to be respectful of those who not only agreed with you, but those who disagreed too. And number two, that whatever it is that you're sharing, that it does not promote hate and divisiveness. This helps ensure balance and fairness. When we created the Knights of Awakening 7 years ago this month, by the way, it was designed to be a place where people from all perspectives, paths, religions, color, creed, gender, sexual orientation, etc., could voice their concerns, perspectives, and whatever their little hearts desired to a broader audience of people within the larger Force community, but also to those who may not be hanging out in Jedi forums or groups. I feel in my heart of hearts that we have accomplished this goal. We have shared so many different perspectives over the past 7 years. Some I agreed with, and some that I didn't. But in the end, I respected those views that I did not agree with, and ensured that they had the same opportunity as the perspective that I did agree with. I kept my promise and will continue to keep my promise as long as the KOA exists. With the people I've worked with at the KOA over the years, many of them being respected members of the Force community, they too have kept my promise, and those who are still here will ensure that I continue to keep this promise. It has been the unwritten rule of the Knights of Awakening as a group to not engage in promoting and or endorsing specific religions or political groups, or candidates, or special interest groups. And we do it as much as humanly possible. Our individual members and hosts have their personal loyalties and such, which is respected and protected as a personal right. But we have always striven to be as balanced as possible as the Knights of Awakening. Now don't get me wrong, we have taken on and will continue to take on certain topics of conversation and certain topics of controversy, playing devil's advocate against one another to try and flush out as complete a picture as we can. We strive to get people who are on the other side of the conversation and the controversies as often as possible too. But as a group, we really try hard not to lean in one political, religious, or special interest direction or the other. As a matter of fact, I have not allowed a few shows over the years because of this, because it could not be presented in a balanced and fair manner. Maybe times have changed. Maybe my surprise in what I'm seeing is my fault for not being directly engaged for all of these years. Maybe I'm just out of touch with what the majority of the Jedi Force community is thinking these days. versus what was taught to me and by me in the quote-unquote older days? I'm sure you guys will let me know in the comments of this video and over at the main KOA page. But I'm seeing a vast change in quote-unquote policy from the various groups, and it's somewhat alarming to me. In the spirit of the Knights of Awakening, I'm asking that you respect my views, and I humbly welcome and respect your views on the matter as well. I'm coming at you from merely one perspective, my personal perspective, and hopefully you will share yours with me so that an opportunity for learning, or at the very least understanding, can take place. The trend I've seen and are referring to, many groups in the Force community are becoming or are very political in their public views and teachings. I have seen politically charged rhetoric become the norm for academies and philosophies for groups. I have seen groups singled out as being worthy of Jedi virtue, while other groups and individuals are not, simply because they do not accept and believe in what the particular group is attempting to shove down their throats. I've even had a respected leader of a large quote-unquote Jedi group attack me on a personal level, calling me a, quote, Bible-thumping conservative Republican, unquote, because I once offered a different perspective that was different than theirs. Now, full disclosure here. I am not affiliated to any one political group, religion, or special interest. I personally stand by an individual's rights as they relate to issues, and I'm not swayed by the politics of the issues themselves. This reminds me of one of my personal statements. A Jedi Knight seeks the path of right in all their endeavors and encounters, never biased by personal judgments, prejudices, or personal interest, taking each situation and issue as it comes, never judging until they have the knowledge they need, and always seeking to find the right path instead of the easy or fast one. When I was a Padawan, I was taught that Jedi were not to take a hard stance when it comes to politics, religion, and other similar topics. That especially politicians and special interest groups were not to be fully trusted until their motives could be flushed out and completely understood. That to put any group of people ahead of any other group of people was wrong. As Jedi, we understood that suffering could and would be found in any walk of life. That it was our job to alleviate suffering wherever we found it to exist. Suffering as a condition does not care what color you are. It does not care what you do in your bedroom. It does not care about who and what you pray to. It does not care about what beliefs you have. And it sure as hell does not care about who you vote for. For a Jedi to put one group of people over the other alienates whole other groups or individuals who may need the Jedi too. I recently posted over at the Knights of Awakening page. Remember, it's not a knight's place to punish the wicked or save the world from evil. These are fallacies found in romantic works of fiction. They are great to read and watch and have wonderful lessons for us to think about. But in truth, this is not the reality. The knight's place in this world is to alleviate suffering wherever it is found. If you do your part, you are saving the world for the person whose pain may be lessened by your compassion and mercy. If we start deciding that only certain groups or individuals are worthy of our values and protection, then how can we honestly say that we are practicing the very virtues and values and morals that we claim to represent? How can we honestly look in the mirror and say that we are doing the right thing? That we allow our personal, political, and special interest affiliation dictate who is worthy and who is not? How can we with a straight face teach the values and morals of the Jedi path if we are aligned to divisive and politically leaning groups and movements? Have we forgotten our oaths and promises? I've taken a few oaths over the years, one of those being my oath of knighthood. None of them said for me to protect some and not others. I have two brother-in-laws who are openly gay. When I first met them, one of them asked me if I fought for quote-unquote gay rights. And I replied with no. I told him that I fight for quote-unquote human rights. I don't care what someone does. If they are suffering and not harming someone else, then they'll be protected by me to the best of my ability. It's not like I have them fill out a questionnaire before I help them. If they decide to tell me, it does not change the fact that they're under my protection. That was my oath. My oath didn't say, protect these people and not those people. If you claim to be Jedi and live by a set of values that come from a Jedi perspective, but then align yourself to groups who by their very nature promote divisiveness, and hate towards others who have done nothing wrong except have different views than their own, or who are simply guilty because they were born a certain way, then you're wrong. I will not support groups who single people out because they have a different perspective or who have been born a certain way. I will not support groups who place politics and special interest over the virtues and values of what this path at its roots is supposed to be about. This, by the way, goes to both sides of the political arguments and any special interest group that seeks to be elevated above any other group or individual. Let me give you just one of the numerous examples that have come across my desk recently. And this, folks, is probably where you're going to get pissed off at me, but I'm okay. I'm okay with that. I just recently read a post from a group of Jedi that made me feel like it was almost a bad thing because I am a white, heterosexual male, that I come from quote-unquote privilege, and that it is my job to support a safe space for people to be safe from people like me, simply because of how I was born. Doesn't that start to sound like the very thing we as a people have fought to eliminate for the past 50 plus years? Why do we want to be divided from each other all over again? Wasn't the goal to make each other equal to one another and to serve one another as equals? To share a basic respect and decency towards each other? Aren't we Jedi supposed to respect and protect all life, not just the life that we agree with? Is a Jedi really supposed to judge individuals based on qualities that said individuals have no control over? And by the way, since when do Jedi orders not already offer a safe place for people to be comfortable with their beliefs and a place to be themselves? Has this changed? Have I just been lucky enough to be in the right places all this time? I know that from what I have personally seen, if someone was being treated badly or unfairly, the person who was causing the trouble was shut down like that. Sure, heated conversations take place, and will always take place in the forums and other places of conversation. And sometimes people get their feelings hurt. But isn't this how we grow within our path? Isn't this how we grow as individuals? Isn't this how the individual orders become stronger? Isn't the strongest shields and the sharpest swords born of heat and pressure? Do words really hurt that much? I don't know, maybe my quote-unquote privilege came with thicker skin. Forcing others to believe in what you believe in the name of political correctness or face alienation and personal attacks is wrong, and you need to check that shit at the door. So is this the new norm for us? Did I miss something along the way? Perhaps I'm not looking at the whole picture. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I just only happen to see some of the stuff that's getting put out there as of late. Maybe the Force community suffers from all of the turmoil, political and social divisiveness, just like the rest of the world. I do want to point out, however, that not all Force-related communities are leaning this way, but those that do seem to be much louder than those who don't. And let's talk about how the Force, or God, as it applies to this topic of conversation. Since when does the Force or God favor one skin color over the other? We have Force users who are black, white, Hispanic, Asian, Indian, etc. And for those who would label me a quote-unquote privileged man, let me tell you something. I still to this day serve a non-white master with love and loyalty. I don't serve him in the order because of some misplaced guilt as you would have me cowering down to. I serve him in the order because they stand for what I believe. And since when does the Force or God care about your sexual orientation or identification? We have Force users in this community who are proud and open about who they are. Since when does the Force or God care about who you voted for or what flavor of politics you endorse? The Force does not care. It values life. All life. If you really believe that the Force values these intricate human issues and places them above life, then I have some very bad news for you. And by the way, I looked and looked and looked, but I couldn't find it anywhere where anybody had written into their philosophy for their particular orders where the Force favors special interest groups over that of life. If I'm wrong, please feel free to point me in the right direction, because I cannot wait to read that. I chose this path and way of life because I believed in the virtues and values that the Jedi stood for. It didn't matter what a person looked like, black, white, or other. It did not matter what that person believed in, Christian, pagan, Muslim, Buddhist, or whatever. It did not matter who they loved. It did not matter what their sexual orientation was. It did not matter what their sexual identification was. And it did not matter who they voted for. It only mattered that we stop those who cause harm and comfort those who are suffering. I show compassion and respect for all life as long as they are doing no harm to others. I show mercy in all of my dealings because justice can sometimes be a terrible thing. So in seeking justice and what is right, humanity, compassion, and mercy must always be employed. This applies to all people that I may come across. In defending those who are suffering, I do not concern myself with any other thing about said person other than if they are suffering. I do not defend those who cause harm, only those who are in harm's way. I don't know about you, but for me, I can't look into the eyes of a human being that is suffering and not help but feel their pain and want to remove the pain right away. It doesn't matter who or what they are. In showing generosity, I do not concern myself with any other thing about that person other than that they are in need and that I have the ability to give. I have faith in what I believe. It is a sum total of my learning and experience. I will not apologize for what I believe in, and I would never ask you to do the same. Mutual respect of our right to have a different belief is what makes this work. Tolerance means that I respect another person's right to have a different point of view. It does not mean that I have to agree with it, though. Respecting the individual's right to a different point of view is key here. Accepting others for who they are comes by respecting each other on a human level. These are but a few of the virtues that I believe make a Jedi. We all need to stand for something. I get it, and I respect that. But we shouldn't be using political correctness to scare or manipulate people into following along just because you think they should. Using fear and guilt as a tool. Tisk, tisk, tisk. Wasn't there something written into a Jedi philosophy that when you use fear as a tool, then you are more likely using a page from those other guys? Come on now. You're better than that. A Jedi is someone who stands up for others, defending those who cannot defend themselves. A Jedi teaches others the skills needed to navigate tough situations that they find themselves in. The goal for a Jedi should be to bring others to a point where the Jedi is no longer needed, and a new, stronger, and more capable person is reborn. Not only these people and not these people, or by helping these people we're alienating these people. It should be all people. My final point is this. If you want to fight for quote-unquote social justice, then do so for all people. Don't alienate those of us who are on your side and who believe and follow the same virtues and values that make a Jedi a Jedi. Differing points of views are expected and valued because it is only in the face of another perspective that we have not considered where learning and growing can take place. If I'm wrong, then let me know. If you want to discuss this in the comments below or over at the main Knights of Awakening page, then make it happen. I can only share my perspective, and I'm counting on you to share yours. I still love you all very much. And until next time, awaken the night within.